Good day. Chuck Cameron here. The program, as you know, is My Life. I'm here with Scott Taylor at his amazing Sick Pizza place. Scott, thank you for spending some time with me. I appreciate you taking the time.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Or it's a pleasure to have you here.
Yes.
I'm always here.
Yeah, I was going to say more like work for you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for the time. What we wanted to do today, first of all, I love the idea I can interview somebody. You're going to love this. I can interview somebody and smell pizza baking behind us. This is a wonderful place.
If things go right, maybe we'll make you some lunch, but we'll just see.
Never argue with the guest.
No.
Never, ever. All right. Okay, so we're here. Scott, like I told you before when we talked, our goal is always the same. It's to figure out the kind of things that had helped make you the man you are sitting with us today. The guy who is invested in Oxford and has made a lot of things happen here. So let's start with this. Tell us about when you were a child. What was it like in your home? And tell us a little bit about mom and dad. You're a local boy, right?
Yes. So I grew up in Lake Orion. My grandparents moved here in 1943, bringing my dad. That's the year he was born. They had a farmhouse on Stony Creek in Orion with 80 acres, which was a hobby farm. So for a wedding present, my grandpa gave my dad the acre next door, and he built a house there, which is now my house. I ended up buying that when my father passed away. So I moved across the hallway. I've been in the same spot for 50 years. So my parents I was the baby. I'm 6 years younger than my sister and 8 years younger than my brother. My parents were super awesome. And my dad was an electrician in the shop at the Bud Wheel in Detroit, and huge in the church. My dad was always the head trustee at the church. So while the deacons were taking care of the spiritual things, he was taking care of, paying the pastor and cutting the grass. I literally cut grass every Tuesday my whole life growing up. And that's like a ball field we were cutting. So I had a great childhood. We had a pool growing up, and my grandma lived next door. It would be, hey, go cut me some rhubarb and I'll make you a pie. And it was like,
Yes,
I mean, it was one of the best childhoods. Like when I look back on it, like almost a storybook childhood, because, it was still the age of innocence, and a beautiful place and a great town. We could walk uptown, and through church, we had a lot of friends in Oxford. So we spent a lot of time up here too. This was kind of the big city to us because downtown Lake Orion was so small, and Oxford had the main road and everything. Yeah. So that was kind of my being a little kid. Like I went to Bland Sims Elementary in Lake Orion, which we actually just built a brand new school. So that one just got torn down this year. But my dad went to elementary school there. My dad graduated from what is now the Cirque building in Orion, which was Central Education Resource Center. It's the old high school. I graduated from that too. He was the first class to graduate, and I graduated in 92 and they closed it in 99. So it was kind of like we had the whole gamut,
What was dad like? What was mom like?
So my dad passed away in 99. He was a giant man, Bucky Taylor. Everybody knew Bucky, and you can say that in a room and somebody in there is going to know him, even now that he's been gone this long. Just such a servant's heart, like taught us from day one, to do for others, do what God would want us to do, treat people with respect and how they want to be treated. My mom just passed away last year. She was a concert alto, could play the organ, super, super talented, beautiful, just a great mom. She was always there for everybody up until the end. She ended up with 7 grandkids, and was a great grandma. So that one was tough. Like that's happened, that's pretty recent, but Yeah, they were great. Like it always makes me feel good talking about them. Like I don't have any dark secrets about my parents that like, my parents screwed me up. I can't blame them.
It's good to talk to people who have a positive growing up,
Yeah.
because not everybody does, but you did, and that's glad for you.
Yeah.
You said your grandparents lived down there too.
Yeah.
What were they like?
So my grandma died like 3 months after my dad died. So she's been gone a long time too. And my grandpa died when I was 4. But they were very similar to what my parents were, as far as my grandpa was huge in the church. He was actually an industrial engineer and built the Bud Company in Detroit. So he got my dad the job back in the day. My grandma played the organ at the church for 60 years. She actually, when they sold the farm, so it was originally an 80-acre farm. When they sold the farm, they kept 2 acres, but with that money, they traveled the world and they bought a new pipe organ for the church. So,
What church were they at?
First Baptist Lake Orion
Got it.
was where we grew up at. So, yeah, I mean, Grandma was the choir director for 50 years, played the organ, just, never heard a foul word out of her mouth, just great, and everyone knew Chris Taylor, and she played at everybody's funerals. So they always said, Mrs. Taylor plays at all our weddings and plays at all our funerals. So she was kind of the lady to go to in Lake Orion. So,
Sounds like you had great role models. What would you say you learned? What big lessons would you say you learned that helped, guide you in the right direction, or help keep you away from stepping in the wrong mud
sure.
from your parents or grandparents?
Yeah, I think that my dad truly taught me my work ethic. He worked 45 miles one way away for 37 years. And, in a not super nice place, it was a stamping plant. So everything's oily and dirty and loud. And always came home with a smile on his face, never brought anything bad from work that happened home with him. And I didn't know this, obviously, you don't know as a kid. It's just, dad gets home and, he looks beat and tired, but hey, we gotta, can you help me with this or can you help me with that? Yeah, let's do it, And I just, the work ethic and kind of I always tell my kids, like whenever I hug them and whisper something in their ear, I always say, don't take no crap from anybody. And my dad used to say that to me, because you can have a servant's heart, you can be a good person, and you can want to help whoever you come around and make a positive influence, but you don't have to take stuff from people. So that was kind of, I think that's the big takeaway I take from my dad.
That's a huge lesson.
Yeah, no doubt.
It sounds like you're passing it on.
I'm doing my best.
Well, I will avoid giving any crap to your daughters.
Thank you.
I'll make a note to that right now. All right.
Don't mess with Evie and Natty.
I will not. All right, we're going to take a little break. When we get back, we're going to talk about kind of the next phase. You become an adult, what you do. You have lots of steps along the way, interesting stuff you've learned and done. And so don't go away. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Awesome.
All right, good. Thank you. A good start. Well, thanks for coming back. All right, we've got Scott being an amazingly fun kid, a great life, good role models. Let's talk about going to the next phase. High school, post high school. What'd you do? What were your steps in life before you started all this adult stuff?
So I loved high school. I was, believe it or not, voted the class clown.
I'm stunned.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm stunned.
So I loved it. I went to Lake Orion. We graduated in 92. There was 330 of us. It's been great. We just had our 30-year reunion, and it was a blast. Ton of people come. It's just one of the highlights for me when those things happen.
Well, especially since you're still here.
100%.
People
Yeah.
go away if
Yeah.
you stuck around. That'd be nice for you to see the folks who left again.
Absolutely. Yeah. So went to OCC. I originally, when I was 17, thought I wanted to be a police officer. So I went to OCC for a couple years and was walking down that path. And I did not go to the police academy because I was offered a opportunity to be a partner in a pizzeria.
Okay, got it.
So I was 20, and it was called Fatty's Pizza. There actually used to be one in Oxford also, but our original one was in Waterford, and it was great. I learned a ton through that experience. Did it for a couple years, but I didn't have the experience that I needed to deal with actual business. Like, I knew I could make pizzas, I knew I could manage people, I knew I could manage customers, but it's the actual business piece of getting respect from vendors and things like that I just I wasn't really good at.
That's a lot of juggling
I hadn't learned that
for a youngster.
100%. So I did several other things. From there, I worked for a taxed inventory company, which basically meant we went into manufacturing facilities and did a wall-to-wall inventory of all their equipment. And I actually ended up doing that for about 7 years and traveled all over the country and had an absolute blast.
Let me ask you about that. That seems to me to be the kind of work that a very detail-oriented person would revel in, and a person like me would run away from screaming. Are you a detail-oriented person?
I'm really not, but I taught myself what I needed for that job because I was really excited about the thought of being able to see the country and on somebody else's dime and made a good wage as well as per diem and things like that. So, 3 times I spent a month in San Francisco. We were in Boston for 3 months.
What would you, from that kind of work, that travel work, what would you say you learned from that kind of work that might help you in this today? That was a while ago, I know.
The big piece is learning and knowing people.
Yeah.
And being able to read a room and because you're walking into some, we did hospitals, we did pharmaceutical companies, but then we also did all the GM plants. So we really had a huge cross section of people that we dealt with, from, millwrights might be walking us around to all the different machines to, a nuclear physicist says, I don't want you to touch this piece of equipment. So it was a huge range, and I love that. Like, I like the something new every day.
A lot of variety.
Yeah. Keep the spice of life going. Yep. And, then we learned we tried to hit a ballpark in every city that we went to. We might all throw in 20 extra bucks and rent a cooler car. And so we got convertibles or something for the week. Just little something.
And let me think, you got paid for this.
Yeah, no doubt. Right. Yeah. And then I got several promotions there. And then I was the head of the pharmaceuticals, the non-car stuff. So pharmaceuticals in hospitals, Kaiser Permanente Hospital, which is in California, the whole state. So nobody has Blue Cross there. They have Kaiser Permanente. So those are the places they go. And we had a contract that over 3 years, we would inventory their whole thing basically from Washington to the bottom of California. So that became my gig. And that was kind of the beginning of the end for me, because then all of a sudden we had kids. And
I presume that we had kids would infer that you have a spousal.
I do have a beautiful wife, Jen Taylor.
Let's talk about Jen for a minute. How'd you meet?
We met on Match.com, and we met on October 6th of 2003.
Excellent.
And we got married in December of 2003.
So you waited 2 months.
Yeah.
Well, it's wise to be patient.
100%. So we were both grown-ups. We both knew what we wanted. There was a total initial attraction, and I just said, I think I want to spend my life with you. And then so we got married basically at Christmas. The next Christmas we had our first bundle of joy, which was Natalie, who's been a true joy in our lives. She's an awesome kid, graduated from Orion. She's in cosmetology school now, almost done. So she's looking to do a career in that field. Mm-hmm. But I kind of missed her childhood, like
Because you were on the road?
I was on the road, and it was very tough because I had gotten a couple really good promotions, and I can remember sitting in a hotel somewhere, and Jen was pregnant with our second daughter, and I said, you know, I didn't get married and do all these things and have children so I could not be with them, right? And I quit the next week. So, but then a great opportunity came with a different company that I did for a couple years, and it was like, you know, comparable money, and I was home, and then I also had the opportunity to. So my youngest daughter's Evelyn. Her birthday is 5/6/7. Her birthday was the other day, and she was just a pistol of a baby. And I got the opportunity for about a year to actually stay home with her, which was huge. We have a great bond, and it's awesome.
I would think that builds some connections that you don't know how to name.
100%. Yeah, I mean, there's nobody can ever take that from me, and no amount of money that anybody would have ever given me to stay somewhere would have. I'm so glad I made that decision. That was one of the biggest.
That's a decision that builds you up. What did you get from that? What did you get from being a dad? How are you a better man because you had to go through the challenges of becoming a dad and being a dad?
Oh, I think that just because my dad was so cool, that all I ever wanted to do was be a dad.
Oh, good.
And once Natalie was born, I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then I was like, she needs a buddy. So then, you know, once Evelyn was born, I was just like, yeah, this is what I was meant to do.
Bingo.
You know, and that's really, I can remember being a little kid and like, man, when I'm a daddy, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I've tried to make my dad proud, you know, by raising, you know, good humans.
I'm guessing he's probably is.
I like to hope so.
Yep. Okay, so you're a dad, you're a husband, you've got some really good work under your belt. We're sort of sneaking up to how'd you get here. So we're going to take a break for a minute. We're going to come back and we'll figure out the big steps you made from doing that stuff to making people happy in downtown Oxford. All right?
You got it.
Don't go away.
Don't do it.
Well, you stayed. We're glad you did. I'm glad you stayed too.
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
I'm still smelling the pizza. I know you got to go back to work.
Yeah.
So. All right. So you're a dad, you're a husband, you've got a good job, you're local now, but you left that to get into the plumbing world, which is a pretty good sized step. How did that happen? And what did you learn from doing that?
So when I was home with Evelyn, I ended up starting a graphics company out of my basement. And Lake Orion Plumbing was one of my first customers.
Nice.
And, you know, a new couple guys had bought it, and, you know, we came up with new logos, and we lettered all these new trucks. And about 7 or 8 months into that relationship, now one of the owners was a dear friend of mine. We went out to lunch, and he said, you know, I've really been looking for a sales guy like you, but I can't find anybody like you.
Like you.
Would you be interested?
I'm hearing like you.
Right. Would you be interested in, you know, coming and being my sales guy? And we could do it to where you can still do your sign things and your graphic stuff. And, you know, we'll work something out. So I did that for about 13 years.
Apparently it worked.
It was great. It was a, you know, another family that I built there, and it was great.
So what did you bring to that company? Other than being able to help the graphic on their trucks.
Well, right. It was more, I was kind of the community guy. So I did all the outreach. We basically established a commercial division. We established an appliance division. We established an underground division. So all those things kind of happened while I was there. And we, tripled the company
Well, that ain't bad.
from when we started. So I like to think everybody just says, well, you just hired Scott, so that's what you got. You got Scott, right? So I just, did whatever I could to make sure that people were treated right, employees and customers, and it worked out really well.
So that sounds great, but I'm sitting in Sick Pizza, which doesn't look like a plumbing supply house.
That's right.
That seems like a fairly large step. Tell us about how you got here.
So COVID happened, and my boss came to me and he said, I need a plan, because we had 20 people working there. We found out we couldn't go in people's houses, we couldn't go in businesses, all these different things. So we kind of reviewed the things, and so I went back to him a couple of days later and had talked to my wife, and I said, we need to lay off 3 people, and I'm one of them. And my boss kind of looked at me puzzled, like, are you some kind of idiot? Like, you're laying yourself off? And I'm like, it's just what's right for the company. And, I think that's what we need to do for 90 days.
That took some courage.
Yeah. And it just, I felt really led to walk down that path. And a dear friend of mine, actually the guy that I owned the pizza place with in the 90s, opened a pizza place in Clarkston. And he was hurting for employees because of COVID. And I said, hey, let me come work with you a couple of days and we'll hang out. We had kind of lost touch, just he's been busy with the opening of the pizza place. So I worked with him 3 days a week and just really started getting the bug again. And we were sitting at dinner with my family, and they're like, so, what do you think of the pizza place? And I said, I love it. Like, I love going there every time, and it's awesome. And I really love making good food and making people smile. And it's, so long story short, I go back to work after the 90 days, and I'm having lunch with my boss, and he says, so when are you getting a pizza place? And I said, as soon as I can find one. He knew it. I mean, he could see, he's like, I know that you love that, and that's what you always wanted to do. It just wasn't necessarily the right time. So literally the next day, he calls me and says, Vendetti's in Oxford is for sale.
No.
And I said, pizza places don't come up for sale that often, right? Especially a family one like that. So Evelyn and I came back up here, and we walked in, and it was quite a bit different in here at that time. It was lots of vines and stuff.
Traditional old pizza place.
100%. And Evelyn walked in. I remember looking down at the old floors, and she said, it's like being in Mackinac in here. Like, I love this. We walked back, met the kids, which I ended up hiring 3 of them. And 3 weeks later, we bought it. So it was a whirlwind of going from, working a good job, laid off, doing part-time stuff, and then all of a sudden we bought a pizza place. So, it was kind of crazy.
Has it been a good decision?
I would not change that decision one bit. Has it been hard? Yes. Is it a lot? Yes.
What does a guy who finally gets his dream to have his own pizza shop, what does he learn the first year?
Training is key, and not necessarily self-training, but the people that you bring in and that you're hoping you can count on are only as good as you putting the time into them to train them. And you can't hold somebody accountable for something they don't know. And I guess that's kind of always been my mantra, but I never really vocalized it to myself. And that's kind of every day these guys will say, I'll say, what am I going to say? And they'll say, we got to set everybody up for success. And, I try to never walk out the door leaving a mess. I try to never walk out the door with, hey, we don't have any lettuce for tomorrow. Like, I'm going to Myers and buying it, because I know that that's not how I want to come in the morning to work. And so I've tried to lay down the framework of, listen, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to take care of each other. If we take care of each other and we take care of the customers, the business is there.
One of the places I think that I was very inspired, impressed isn't a good word, at how you were involved in the take care of each other was an event 4 years ago that happened in this town, which devastated everybody. And you and team here stepped into that and we're able to do some remarkable things with the generous folks that come in the door. Tell us a little bit about that fundraising event.
So we decided, my partner Tom and I decided that we really wanted to do something. And I think it was one of those things where everybody wanted to do something, but nobody knew what to do, right? And so you're supporting kids and all these people that have had the worst day of their lives. And we came up with the thought that we would do a fundraiser. And, you know, even if it was to help pay for funerals or anything like that. And, you know, we really had a small goal of, you know, $25,000. I think that we could raise in a couple of days by making pizzas, giving them away, and people just give donations. Well, we discovered after the first day that it was going to be much bigger than we ever imagined.
You think so?
So I called, I actually emailed Big Jim's house, which is the 94.7 WCSX radio station. I emailed him and said, listen, I'm Scott, I'm in Oxford, we're doing a fundraiser and I need help. So he called me at 6 a.m. because they get there that early, you know, they're there at 5. And he's like, what do you need? I said, I need flour, I need boxes, I need pepperoni, and I need cheese. Because I had just gotten all our food for the week, but we literally gave it away. We gave it away on Friday. And we had enough for about half the day on Saturday. I kept telling everybody, I'm like, this is like a parable. Like every time I walk into this walk-in, there's another pile of cheese, or, you know, this whole
story about that.
This whole area was just full of unfolded boxes, and it was amazing. So basically, I put it out to my kids, my family, my partner's family, close friends, and we ended up with 30 or 40 people here making pizzas, and for 4 days, Friday, Saturday, 3 days, and it was magical. Like I did a really long. We did lots of videos because we really wanted to document it for ourselves. We never wanted to come across that we were advertising anything. So we did a pretty good YouTube that's kind of like the chronological order of what the fundraiser was. And it's just amazing. And like to go in the last day in the walk-in and there's nothing in there, like it's all gone. And we basically had to take a day off at the end in order for all our suppliers to bring us food and then prep it all so we could be open again.
Start again.
So
When you did it, and now years later when you tell the story, it makes me realize that it sounds like it gave you a chance to take who you are and do good with your team for a town that really needed it, and take very little credit for it because it was the people who brought in the cash and the people who helped you do it.
100%.
That's a good thing.
That's my, you know, people have said similar things to me, and I said, I just happen to have the perfect spot, and I happen to have 2 great big ovens that I can put out a product, right? And so I think that you know, obviously nobody will ever forget that day. And we watched all the ambulances and everything drive by here in real time. And we had to do something. And my partner, Tom, is also very benevolent. And, you know, we felt like we started at grassroots and it ended up, you know, $102,000. So it was a miracle, and it had nothing to do with us.
Understood.
We were just the hands. Yeah.
Well, let's do this. First of all, you've had an amazing life so far. I'm thinking we're gonna hear a lot about your life in the future too. Because of time interest, we're gonna have to kind of wind this interview down. But I love that story because it reminds me that everybody is here, everybody who's out there can do some remarkable things to make things better. And you guys exampled that for us. So thank you for taking time with us. I sure appreciate it. I hope the rest of your day is a good one. And friends, you got to stop by Sick Pizza. This is good stuff. Until then, for Scott, this is Chuck saying, you have a great day.